December 22nd, 2014 from Marlins Park in Miami, Florida. It was the Miami Beach Bowl between the Brigham Young University Cougars and the Memphis Tigers. And BYU would start off with the ball first, and after the kickoff, they start off with it on their own 25. And on 2nd and 7 from the 28, Christian Stewart hit Mitch Mathews for a 10-yard reception that made a first down on the 38. And on 1st and 10, Lasike fumbled the ball. He was blown up by Jackson Dillon. So Memphis recovers, and they would start after the fumble on their own 35. Then on 3rd and 8 from the 33, Paxton Lynch dropped back to pass, and he hit Keiwone Malone for a 33-yard touchdown as the Tigers put the first points on the scoreboard with the score Memphis 7, Brigham Young 0. So now BYU would get the ball on their own 18 after the kickoff. And on 2nd and 9 from the 19, Christian Stewart hit Trevor for an 18-yard reception, a first down at the 38. Then on 2nd and 2 from the 45, Stewart went to Mathews. He picked up 8 in the first down in Memphis territory at the 47. And on 1st down, Christian Stewart dropped back to pass, and he hit Juergens for a 47-yard touchdown pass. And this game was now tied up at 7 apiece between the Cougars and the Tigers. So now after the kickoff, Memphis would take over on their own 42. And they would end up getting into BYU territory when on 2nd and 9 from the 43, Lynch hit Frazier for a 4-yard pass, but a face mask penalty is what would make it a first down on the BYU 38 for Memphis. Then Lynch went to Frazier. He picked up 16, a first down at the 22. They're then faced with a 3rd and 1 from the 13, and Lynch hit Mayhew, and he fumbled the ball, but he recovered his own fumble, and he ended up picking up 12. And so now it was 1st and goal on the 1, and an incomplete pass would bring up 2nd and goal from the 1, and Paxton Lynch punched it in himself for the 1-yard touchdown run and put the Tigers back in the lead with the score Memphis 14, Brigham Young 7. So now BYU would take over on their own 19 after the kickoff with just under 10 minutes still left in the quarter. They would end up bringing the ball into Memphis territory when on 2nd and 2 from the 27, Christian Stewart hit Juergens for a 33-yard reception that made it a first down in the Memphis 40. Then on 3rd and 2 from the 32, Alcaron Brown ran for 7 yards to make it a first down on the 25. And on 2nd and 10 from the 25, Christian Stewart dropped back and he hit Mitch Mathews for a 25-yard reception that would make it a touchdown in a tie game at 14 apiece. So now the Tigers got the ball on their own 30 after the kickoff, and they would actually end up with a 1st and 10 in BYU territory after a 47-yard pass from Lynch to cross from the 41, bring it all the way to the BYU 12. And then Paxton Lynch ended up fumbling the ball as Manoa Palokua, which I totally butchered that name, but BYU recovered. Jordan Leslie ended up jumping on the ball. And so now BYU had it with about 5.5 on the clock in the first. They had it on their own 8-yard line, but they would end up punting from their own 26 plays later. Christian Stewart ended up getting sacked by Jackson Dillon on 3rd down. That would bring out the punting unit. And that was after they had actually picked up a first down. But Memphis now would get the ball after the punt on their own 35 with about a little less than 4 minutes still left in the first quarter. And so Keiwone Malone would end up running 38 yards for the first down. They made a first down on the 27. They wouldn't get another first down, and on 4th and 4 from the 21, out would come Jake Elliott to attempt a 39-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Tigers were back in the lead by 3 with the score Memphis 17, Brigham Young 14. So now BYU would get the ball on their own 25 after the kickoff, and they would go 3 and out on this possession and end up punting from their own 29. So now with less than a minute left still in the first, Memphis would take over on their own 23 after the punt, and they would go 3 and out as well and punt from their own 22. So now BYU would take over with just seconds left in the first on their own 25 after the punt. And on 1st down, Christian Stewart dropped back, and he was intercepted by Derek Howard. So now on the final play of this first quarter, Memphis would get the ball back. But But after 1 quarter of play, the score was Memphis 17, Brigham Young 14. So now to open up the second quarter, Memphis had the ball on their own 31. It was after the interception. They're then faced with a 3rd and 4. It was actually on the BYU 31. A 3rd and 4 from the BYU 25. Paxton Lynch then hit Allen Cross for a 5-yard reception, a first down at the 20. Then on 3rd and 2 from the 12, Sam Kraft ran for 9 yards in the first down. They made a 1st and goal on the 3. Then Paxton Lynch ran it into the end zone for the second time this game, this time from 3 yards out for the touchdown to put the Tigers up by 10 with the score Memphis 24, BYU 14. So now the Cougars would take over on their own 25 after the kickoff with a little less than 13 minutes left on the clock in the second quarter. They ended up picking up a first down, and then on 3rd and 5 from the 41, Christian Stewart dropped back, and he was sacked by Jackson Dillon, and out would come the punting unit to punt from the 30. So now the Tigers would take over on their own 22 after the punt, but they would go 3 and out on the possession and punt from their own 27. So now BYU would have the ball on their own 38 with less than 10 minutes left in the first half. They're faced with a 3rd and 9 from the 39. A pass interference call gave them a first down on their own 47. They're then faced with a 4th and 1 from the Memphis 44. They elected to go for it, and Brown picked up the first down with a 5-yard run that brought the ball to the 39. But then a personal foul brought them back into their own territory. But then a 13-yard pass from Stewart to Mahina made a first down back in Memphis territory at the 41. They're then faced with a 3rd and 2 from the 33, and Brown ran for 3 yards and first down at the 30. And then on 4th and 3 from the 23, they elected to go for it, and Christian Stewart dropped back and hit Jordan Leslie for a 23-yard touchdown pass that brought this game to within 3 points with the score Memphis 24, Brigham Young 21. So now Memphis would get the ball with less than 5 minutes left in the first half. After the kickoff, it was on their own 47. And on 2nd down from the 47, Paxton Lynch dropped back, and he was intercepted by Alani Fua. So now it was Brigham Young's ball on the Memphis 15 as they would start their drive in the red zone. And on 2nd and 2 from the 7, Brown picked up 4 and a first down. They would make it 1st and goal from the 3. And then Stewart got stuffed for no gain. And on 2nd goal from the 3, Paul Lasike ended up punching it in himself for a 3-yard touchdown that gave the Cougars back the lead with the score. Actually, the lead for the first time in this game with the score BYU 28, Memphis 24. So now the Tigers would take over after the kickoff on their own 39 with a little over 3 minutes left in the first half, and they would end up going 3 and out and punting from the 47. So now BYU would take over after the punt with just over 2 minutes left in the second quarter. They had it on their own 13, but they would go 3 and out and punt from their own 21. So now Memphis would get the ball, and they would bring the first half to a close. So after 1 half of play, the score was BYU 28, Memphis 24. So now coming out of the locker rooms at halftime to start the third quarter, the Tigers would get the ball, and they would start on their own 29 after the kickoff. And they would end up marching downfield and into BYU territory. They got down into the red zone on 2nd and 3 from the 18. Jarvis Cooper ran for 6 yards and a first down that brought it to the 12. And then after having too many men on the field, again on the defense, BYU would get a penalty. And then on 2nd and 9, Paxton Lynch would end up punching it in for the touchdown as the Tigers would take the lead with the score Memphis 31, Brigham Young 28. So now BYU would take over on their own 11 after the kickoff. They would end up getting a couple first downs, but then on 3rd and 15 from the 18, Christian Stewart was intercepted by Bobby McCain. So now Memphis would take over on their own 40. On the BYU 40 rather, and they wouldn't get a first down, but out would come Jake Elliott to attempt a 53-yard field goal. It was up and it was no good, and so it remained a 3-point game with the score Memphis 31, BYU 28. So now the Cougars would take over on their own 35 after the missed field goal with 7 minutes still left in the third. They would go 3 and out and punt from their own 39. So now with 6 minutes still left in the third, Memphis had the ball on their own 27 after the punt, and they would end up getting into BYU territory when on 2nd and 9 from the 28, Paxton Lynch hit Joe Craig for a 42-yard reception, a first down on the BYU 30. And then on 2nd and 9 from the 29, Lynch hit Hayes for an 11-yard reception, made a first down in the red zone on the 18. And on 2nd and 9 from the 17, Paxton Lynch dropped back and he hit Allen Cross for a 17-yard touchdown pass. They made it a 10-point lead for the Tigers with the score Memphis 38, Brigham Young 28. So now BYU would take over on their own 27 after the kickoff, and they would go 3 and out as they ended up punting from their own 28. So now the Tigers would take over after the punt on their own 26 with about 2 minutes left in the third. They would end up bringing the third quarter to a close. And after 3 quarters of play, the score was Memphis 38, Brigham Young 28. So now to open up the fourth quarter, it was 3rd and 19 for the Tigers on their own 31. Hayes had a 12-yard run, would make it 4th and 7. But then they took a delay of game penalty. They would end up punting from their own 38. So now the Cougars would have the ball on their own 30 after the punt. They would end up going 3 and out and punting from the 30. So now the Tigers got the ball back on their own 31 after the Cougars punted to them. And on first down, Paxton Lynch dropped back and he was intercepted by Manawa Pikula. And so now it would be Cougars ball on the Memphis 47 after the interception. And on first down, Christian Stewart hit Devin Mahina for a 41-yard reception that made it 1st and goal on the 6. They weren't able to get into the end zone, and out would come Trevor Samson to attempt a 23-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and it was now a 7-point game with the score Memphis 38, Brigham Young 31. So now the Cougars would end up kicking it off, but Joe Craig fumbled the kickoff, and it was recovered by Chris Badger. And so now the Cougars would have the ball in field goal range to start this possession on the Memphis 26. Christian Stewart then hit Paul Lasike, and he had a 19-yard reception that made it 1st and goal on the 7. Now Paul Lasike ended up punching in for a 7-yard touchdown, and it was a tie game at 38 apiece. So now the Tigers would take over on their own 36 after the kickoff with 11 minutes left in this game in regulation. And they would end up going 3 and out and punting from the 38. So now BYU would take over on their own 25 with 10 minutes on the clock in the fourth. They picked up a first down, a couple of first downs, but they ended up punting from their own 50 after 7 plays. So now the Tigers would take over on their own 8-yard line, backed up against their own end zone after the punt with 8.5 minutes left in the fourth. And on 2nd and 8 from the 10, Paxton Lynch dropped back and he was intercepted by Zach Stout, and he ran it back 19 yards for the touchdown and the pick 6 to give the Cougars the lead 45-38 over the Tigers. So now Memphis would end up getting the ball on their own 38 after the kickoff with less than 8 minutes left in the fourth. They'd pick up some first downs and get into BYU territory, but they would end up punting from the BYU 42. So now the Cougars would take over with a 7-point lead and the ball on their own 6 after the punt and 4 minutes on the clock. Backed up against their own end zone, they weren't able to get a first down. They actually fumbled it on 2nd down, but they recovered their fumble. And an incomplete pass would bring out the punting units. The Cougars went 3 and out on this possession and would punt from their own 4. So now Memphis had the ball with about 2.5 minutes left in regulation, trailing by 7. And they had it on their own 33 after the punt. They're actually in BYU's 33, so they're already somewhat in field goal range to start their drive. And then they ended up being faced with a 4th and 7 on the BYU 30. They elected to go for it instead of attempting the 53-yard field goal. And Paxton Lynch hit Malone for a 19-yard reception that made a first down in the red zone on the BYU 11. And then they weren't able to get a first down, and they were faced with a 4th and 4 from the BYU 5-yard line. They elected to go for it instead of kicking a field goal, as there was less than a minute left on the clock, and they needed a touchdown to tie the game. And Paxton Lynch on 4th and 4 dropped back, and he hit Malone for a 5-yard touchdown that tied this game up at 45 apiece. So now the Cougars who get the ball after the kickoff backed up against their own end zone on their own 9-yard line with about 45 seconds left to play and needing to get in a field goal range to win this game, or else it would go to overtime. They ended up on first down getting a 12-yard pass to Mathews from Stewart. They would make it a first down on the 21. And then on 2nd and 10, Stewart ran for 8 yards. Now it's 3rd and 2 from the 29, and Brown ran for 8 yards to bring the ball to the 37 for one last play as BYU took their final timeout with just 10 seconds left. And Stewart dropped back. He aired it out, but it was incomplete, and this game was going to overtime. So the Miami Beach Bowl in overtime. BYU would get the ball first, and they would have it on the Memphis 25. An incomplete pass on first down. On second down, Lasike ran for 2 yards. And on 3rd and 8 from the 23, a false start would move them back to the 28. And an incomplete pass would bring out Trevor Samson to attempt a 45-yard field goal. It was up. It was good. And the Cougars were now up 48-45. So now Memphis would get the ball on their own 25. And on first down, Paxton Lynch was sacked by Bronson Kafusi. And so now it would be 2nd and 19 from the 34. Hayes lost 3 yards. And on 3rd and 22 from the 37, an incomplete pass would then bring out Jake Elliott to attempt a 54-yard field goal to keep this game going. It was up and it was good. And so this game was tied at 48, and we would play on into the second overtime. And so now Memphis had the ball on the BYU 25, and on first down, an incomplete pass brought up 2nd and 10 from the 25. Lynch then hit Malone for a 10-yard reception. It was now 1st and 10 on the 15. Hayes ran for 4 yards. Now it was 2nd and 6 from the 11. Paxton Lynch dropped back, and he hit Roderick Proctor for an 11-yard touchdown as the Tigers took the lead 55-48. So now the Cougars would have the ball on the Memphis 25, needing a touchdown to keep this game going, or else it would be over. So on first down, Brown ran for 1 yard. Now on 2nd and 9 from the Memphis 24, Christian Stewart dropped back, and he was intercepted by Deshaun Terry, and the Tigers win the Memphis Beach Bowl with the final score, Memphis 55, BYU 48 in double overtime. So a crazy game. Back and forth, plenty of scoring, as these two teams ended up combining for 103 points in this game, and they played double overtime. And in this game, for the Tigers, Paxton Lynch was 24 for 46 with 306 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He also had 13 carries for 38 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. So Paxton Lynch combines for 7 total touchdowns. An impressive performance by the Tiger. And for the Cougars, Christian Stewart was 23 for 48. He had 348 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And he had 11 carries for a negative 11 yards. So there's your contrast. The leading rusher in this game was Algernon Brown. He had 19 carries for 79 yards. And the leading rusher for the Tigers was Brandon Hayes. He had 22 carries for 49 yards. And Malone actually had 2 carries for 41 yards, and he was actually the leading receiver for the Tigers with 6 receptions for 75 yards, as well as 2 touchdowns. And the leading receiver in this game was Mitchell Juergens for the Cougars. He had 4 receptions for 87 yards, including a touchdown, and Mitch Mathews had 9 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown as well. And there was lots of interceptions in this game, 6 interceptions total, 3 for the Tigers, 3 for the Cougars. And for BYU, Alini Fua, Zach Stout, and Manoa Pekula, they each had 1 interception. Sorry about the pronunciation. I cannot believe that I actually said that right. But Derek Howard, Deshaun Terry, Bobby McCain each had interceptions for the Tigers. So Memphis wins this one off the strength of a huge performance by Paxton Lynch, 7 total touchdowns, and the final score after double overtime, Memphis 55, BYU 48.